The Australian outback is home to some of the most dangerous species known to man, but even Steve Irwin's never seen some shit like this. These people have no idea that right now they're being stalked by an undead kangaroo, and it's about to turn the entire town into a hunting ground. We're here to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the zombie kangaroo in Rippy. This kangaroo is about to go on a killing spree. Somewhere far out in the Australian wilderness, a pair of campers set up their tent on the edge of a polluted river. It seems like a peaceful afternoon, but looking closer, we see the tent is covered in blood, and there's 2 dead campers inside who were already torn to shreds. That makes 2 down with 11 more to go. But it's what killed them that's really strange. It was Rippy, a 7-foot-tall, undead kangaroo, and he's about to go on a brutal rampage of death like the Outback has never seen. The next morning, Sheriff Maddie here is on patrol around the small town of Axehead. She's trying to live up to her father's memory, who died while saving her life while she was young. The sheriff here thinks he'd be proud to know that she's keeping the town safe, but today, everything is about to change. At his property on the outskirts of town, local drunk Schmitty here is out doing some casual hunting in a bathrobe. They stumble through the woods until they hear one of his noise traps go off, and his dog Ralph starts going crazy at something out in the trees. Telling him to watch his back, the man takes his weapon and starts creeping towards the source of the noise, noticing a disgusting smell in the air the closer he gets. Just when he thinks he's got it, more noises start coming from all around him, until suddenly, the creature attacks him from behind. He hits it with a shot to the chest, but no matter how many times he fires, the creature just won't die. All he can do is hold it off until eventually it takes his dog and runs into the woods. Okay, just when I thought that we'd seen it all, it looks like we've got a motherfucking zombie kangaroo terrorizing a town. Now, I'll bet you a bloomin' onion that we haven't seen the last of this murderous marsupial, so we're gonna need a plan for the next time that he shows up. The red kangaroo here is actually the largest marsupial on Earth, and one of the most powerful animals on the Australian continent. Males can grow to over 6 feet tall and weigh in at around 200 pounds, making them as physically intimidating as a large person, but with the kind of incredible strength and agility that only a wild animal can have. Their most well-known feature is their powerful set of hind legs, which they can use for both combat and mobility. I mean, these bad boys let them cover over 25 feet in a single leap and reach speeds of over 35 miles per hour in short bursts. But don't sleep on that tail either. It's full of muscles, making it just as strong as a third leg. You know, in combat, they can swing it like a club or lean back with their full body weight, allowing them to charge up a devastating double-legged kick. In fact, a roo the size of Rippy could hit with more than 1,000 pounds of force in a single kick. I mean, that's like getting hit dead on by a car traveling at 30 miles per hour. And if that's not good enough, both feet have sharp, pointed claws that can slice straight through your skin. Yeah. Now, as shredded as they are, a shot from a hunting rifle should be more than enough to take one down. The problem is, Rippy here isn't your average kangaroo. He's a zombie kangaroo, which adds a whole nother element to the whole deal, but we'll get back to that in a minute. Now, normally, a kangaroo would never attack a human unless it feels threatened, but male kangaroos are also highly territorial, which could explain why it only attacks people in the forest and doesn't go straight into town. In fact, whatever infection caused it to become a zombie must have made it more aggressive, causing it to attack anyone who enters its territory. That's bad news for anyone in the woods, but as long as you stay near the center of town where there are plenty of meat shields, you should be fine. And like any good zombie, we saw that a shot to the body wasn't enough to take it down, which can only mean one thing. Next time, we gotta aim for the head. Back in town, Sheriff Maddie pulls over the local farmer to jokingly ask him when she's getting her eggs. She's good friends with just about everybody in the neighborhood, but there's one guy who's a constant pain in the ass. Right on time, Schmitty comes speeding into town in his big Volkswagen van, and he's in a hurry to tell the sheriff what happened at his farm. Rushing over to her, he hurriedly explains exactly what he saw, saying how a massive evil kangaroo attacked him and ran off with his dog. He's convinced that there's something supernatural going on, telling her how he shot the roo and got no reaction. Maddie can't trust a word he's saying, and she gets distracted when she hears a commotion coming from the town saloon. Running inside, she finds these 2 goobers Parker and Ricky here getting to throw hands after having too much to drink. They're about to turn the place into a cage match when Maddie and their boss Dave step in to break it up. The dummies also get off easy until one of them makes a rude comment to the sheriff, and she decides to teach them a lesson. Kicking them both out of the bar, she tells the owner to double their bill and takes away their car keys so that they can't drive, telling them that they'll have to walk home and sober up. At least she's nice enough to give them a flashlight and let them off with a warning, but what they don't realize is this is the last time that they'll ever see these guys alive. On the way out, she tells the owner Donna that Schmitty's been coming around with crazy stories about a giant kangaroo. She's his ex-wife and Maddie doesn't want to upset her, but they both seem to think that it's just more of his usual antics. It's after dark and the boys are walking down the road home with absolutely no idea that they're being watched. One of them stops to prank his buddy, claiming that the sheriff gave him her number, only to give him the finger when he takes his hand out of his pocket, but he has to step off the road for a minute to take a leak. As he's shining his light at the trees, his buddy notices something strange. There's an unusual silence all around them, like there's not a single animal anywhere nearby. They notice a pair of bright, shining eyes staring back at them from the darkness, and the creature suddenly grabs him by the leg, dragging him back into the bushes. His friend tries to run for it, but he doesn't make it far before the Roo tackles him to the ground and starts tearing him limb from limb. It looks like these two won't be making it into work tomorrow, and that makes 4 down with 9 more to go. Okay, well damn! I guess walking home was the wrong choice. The worst part about it is that in a lot of ways their deaths were actually Maddie's fault. Now obviously she couldn't let them drive home in that condition, but she could have at least offered them a ride, especially when Schmitty tried to warn her that a killer kangaroo was on the loose. All of the birds and other animals went from going absolutely crazy to suddenly going dead silent, and that's always a good warning sign that there's a dangerous predator nearby. That was red flag number 1, but as soon as you see a pair of demonic eyeballs watching you from the shadows, it's time to start running before your friend does. We already know that kangaroos can reach speeds of up to 35 miles per hour in short bursts. I mean, the average human can only do about 15, and that's only if they're in good shape and haven't been throwing back Fosters at the bar all night long. Shout out to Fosters. Basically, once Rippy here was within ripping distance, this guy stood absolutely no chance of getting out of there by running straight down the open road. You might try treating it like a black bear, trying to look as big as possible and stand your ground, but that won't work either. In the wild, a male kangaroo would see this as a challenge and be forced to throw hands. Plus, when you add Rippy's zombified aggression into the mix, you know there's no chance of him backing down. With that being said, the only solution that I can possibly think of here is to keep the flashlight and quickly duck straight into the forest. In there, he can run in between the trees and try to break up the Roo's approach. Rippy won't be able to hit his top speed, and his large body will make it more difficult to maneuver between the trees, meaning his agility won't be as big of a factor. Then you can look on the ground for a rock or a heavy stick to use as a weapon. Put the flashlight down as the bait for a trap and go straight for the head when you get the chance. Alright you guys, it's almost Thanksgiving, so let's talk turkey. Well, actually, let's talk pie. Pi is the tool that is revolutionizing the way that we use the internet. I've been using Pi for a bit now, and it's a game changer, to be honest. Not only does it block annoying ads, but it also lets me earn rewards for the ads that I do see. It's like getting paid to surf the web. Let's dive into how Pi works. First up, the ad blocker. Watch as those pesky ads disappear in real time. Did you know that over 50% of internet users in the US use an ad blocker? It's not that surprising, but what makes Pi different is that you can opt to see some ads and earn rewards for watching them instead of just being subjected to sitting through them. Or you can simply disable all ads and be free. Now Christmas is almost upon us, so let's talk shopping. Pi's shopping companion extension is absolutely clutch. This bad boy automatically applies coupons at lightning speed on over 10,000 stores. And it's the first ad blocker that allows all rewards to come through. That's money in the bank. Money in the bank. Ready to take control of your internet experience? Click the link below to download Pi and start saving time and money today. Remember, it's completely free. And with that, back to the show. The next day while out on patrol, Sheriff Maddie gets a call about an incident somewhere on the edge of town. It's for the two miners who never made it into work this morning, and their boss is already on the scene. The bodies are both mangled beyond anything they've ever seen, and their only explanation is that it must have been some kind of wild animal. The only problem is the usual predators don't add up, and anything that could have done this much damage would have to be incredibly strong. They decide to blame it on an accident for now, thinking that a car must have hit them and ran from the scene, but that's when Schmitty here shows up with a much different idea. He's absolutely sure it was the same undead kangaroo that took his dog, and he's determined to stop it before it gets anyone else. But Maddie condescendingly tells him to get lost, so he leaves mumbling something about a zombie. After finishing up at the crime scene, Maddie stops by the funeral home to have a look at the men's bodies, but nothing could prepare her for what she's about to see. Even the mortician is absolutely horrified by the state of them, saying how he's never seen anything like it, and the damage is so bad that he doesn't even know where to start. Whatever attacked them ripped, slashed, and even bit entire chunks of flesh out of the victims' bodies, but there's no sign that any kind of weapon was used. To him, it looks like an incredibly strong man tore them apart with his bare hands. And that's when Maddie gets an unexpected update on a new lead. While she was handling the investigation, she had someone at base run a background check on every new employee who's recently started working at the nearby mines. And it turns out that they found a suspect, Reuben Williams. He's a big scary dude from out of town with a long list of crimes that includes assault and manslaughter. So it seems like they've found their guy, but everything won't be as straightforward as she thinks. Maddie heads over to the mine to ask the guy some questions, but as soon as she tries to get his alibi, he starts demanding to see a lawyer. With the guy refusing to speak, all she can do is bring him down to the station, but meanwhile, the real killer is still roaming free. Back at the tavern, Maggie confidently announces to everyone in town that the culprit is securely behind bars. Teenager Troy here is excited by the news because this means it's safe to go for a sunset jog, but that was his biggest mistake. There's a picture of Maddie's dad on the wall, and the owner thinks he'd be proud of the good job she's done, but little do they know that this nightmare is just getting started. At home, the sheriff tries to calm her nerves with a cup of tea, still feeling conflicted if she made the right choice. Meanwhile, Troy here sets off on his jog, never knowing that he's running straight to his grave. It's getting dark, so he uses a headlamp to light up the way, but as he heads deeper into the forest, he stumbles right into the path of the killer Roo. He hears the monster before he sees it, sensing that something huge must be nearby. Terrified, he starts running faster while looking over his shoulder, but all he can hear is the creature shrieking and the sound of giant hops headed his way. Just when he thinks that he might have lost it, the beast suddenly jumps out of the bushes and tears him apart, making 5 down with 8 more to go. Okay, talk about picking a bad time for some cardio, am I right or am I right? Now, once again, Maddie here is pretty much single-handedly responsible for this guy's death, but we've also got to put some blame on Donna and Dave. They saw the same evidence that she did, but let her get away with the whole hit and run excuse when it was obviously bull, instead of pressuring her to do the right thing for the good of the town. But it was poor little Troy who had it the worst of all. I mean, the poor guy was guaranteed by the sheriff herself that it was perfectly safe to go out. And this right here is why you should never blindly trust somebody just because they're wearing a uniform. To be fair though, the guy wasn't exactly the brightest bulb in the box. I mean, even when he thought it was safe, I might have given it another day or two before I went jogging around alone after dark when 2 grown men just got werewolfed a few miles down the road. Now, after hearing what happened, let's say you're jogging through the woods when you hear a terrifying growl, and then, all of a sudden, the birds go quiet. Do you just keep jogging in the same direction, trying to pretend like nothing happened? Hell no! That's when you start sprinting back towards home, and hopefully you'll make it before you get eaten alive. Getting a good start is the key here, because like we said before, you can't run from the kangaroo. He's too fast, So if you're this guy, then what do you do? Well, once running home wasn't an option anymore, it seems like the only other choice was the same as the two guys before. He could run into the forest and either try to climb a tree or grab a stick and go for the head. Now with that being said, the hard truth is that this guy was screwed the minute that he walked out of the door. But Maddie here still needs to keep the rest of the town safe, and once they find the body, it's going to change pretty much everything. They know it can't be Ruben because he was locked up during the attack, which leaves dangerous wildlife as the only possible explanation. The first thing that Maddie needs to do is call in backup and warn all the nearby departments that there's a dangerous kangaroo on the loose. Locally, she can gather everyone up at the hotel and warn them that all they need to do is be extremely careful. They should probably stay inside for now and definitely travel in groups, and let her know right away if they see anything. Then it's time to get a group of hunters together and track it down, which is exactly what they're going to do, but we'll talk about the strategy for that in just a little bit. That night, Maddie flips through a scrapbook of photos of her dad, bringing her back to the accident that happened when she was a kid. A phone call from Troy's parents snaps her out of it, and they're worried because he never came home from his run. Telling them to hold on, she promises to get right out there as soon as she can, but by then, it's already much too late. It's pitch dark by the time she gets to the property, where she finds the parents on the side of the road next to Troy's lifeless body. She can hardly believe that another attack happened so soon and tries comforting the old woman as if this isn't her fault. But Grandma here is absolutely furious, calling her out for lying about their safety. All of a sudden, the people of the town are dropping like flies, and her only choice is to stop the creature before it strikes again. Feeling guilty, the sheriff seeks some advice from her friend Donna. The woman tries her best to come up with another explanation, but the attacks were too similar for Maddie to ignore, and now she's convinced that she only has one option. She has to get advice from the craziest guy in town, the woman's drunk ex-husband, Schmitty. He's the only one who actually believes in the giant roo, but Donna here still thinks that it's just the alcohol talking, saying how he hasn't been the same ever since he started hitting the bottle a little too hard. She's down to organize a hunting party with some of the locals to look for whatever real animal could be behind this, but Maddie still can't explain the giant tracks that keep showing up on the ground, and she's not ready to call Schmitty here crazy just yet. Traveling out to his place, she lets herself into his trailer when he doesn't answer the door. Schmitty here was actually her dad's partner back in the day, and he still keeps a picture of them together on the table. She can tell that somebody was there recently, and that's when the man shows up a moment later, apologizing for not knowing she was coming. The guy still hasn't found any trace of his dog, and he can tell by the look on her face that the evil roo must have claimed another victim. Seeing that she feels guilty, he gives her a smelly shoulder to cry on, and a pep talk about how she's the best sheriff that they've ever had. But Maddie here can't see it that way. Frustrated, he explains that there's still a lot about her father's past that she doesn't know. When she presses him for the story, he eventually confesses how the two of them originally met back in the jungles of Vietnam, where they both had a vision of an evil creature that appeared in the sky. Back in those days, it felt like they were constantly surrounded by an evil force, and during the brutal battles, they'd have to do whatever it took to survive. It got so bad that their commander called in a napalm strike directly on top of their own forces, and in flames, they saw a terrifying vision of an enormous black dragon towering over the sky. They were only able to survive by hiding in their foxhole, and he's had to live with the nightmares ever since. But taking down the zombie roo could be his chance to finally confront his demons. She needs to help him track it down, telling him to meet them at dawn, but he warns her that what she sees out there might change her forever. Okay, it looks like the sheriff here is finally rounding up a posse to wrangle this outlaw roo. They've got the spirit, but they're going to need a plan if any of them want to survive. Now, it helps that, thanks to Schmitty here, we have a pretty straight up and down idea of what we're dealing with. It's some kind of zombified kangaroo that's supposed to be the very essence of evil itself, or something like that. Look, I don't really care what kind of metaphysical shit is going on. What matters to me is how we can kill it, so let's start by working our way up from a more practical baseline. Now, because of his undead nature, we know that Rippy here won't need to eat, drink, or sleep, but there's no reason to assume that he won't still engage in his usual routines out of pure instinct. Even though he's a zombie, treating it like hunting a regular kangaroo could make him easier to find. They should start by checking the nearby water sources, because these are always a hotspot for kangaroo activity, especially around dawn and dusk. They are susceptible to heat, so they're most active during these cooler parts of the day. Roos don't make a permanent burrow like some animals, but as the temperature rises, they take shelter in a handful of shady spots around their territory. So that's where we'll want to check for tracks, broken plants, or leftovers from his recent kills to get us pointed in the right direction. They're already armed with powerful rifles, but they'll need to remember to aim for the head. Also, they can't forget about defense either, since one kick from Rippy is enough to send you to an early grave. I'd spend all night putting together some kind of anti-kangaroo battle armor with a hard outer shell to resist his claws, and a layer of cushion on the inside to reduce the force of his kicks. In the wild, kangaroos are naturally curious animals, so there's a good chance that leaving out some raw meat might lure him into a trap. But I have a better idea. Schmitty here seems convinced that the kangaroo is attracted to pure evil, and Maddie just so happens to be the town sheriff, which gives us an interesting opportunity. What I would do is go down to the prison, get the most evil guy in town, and use him to set up a trap that Rippy can't resist, because everyone knows when you're trying to catch a zombie roo, there's nothing better than live bait. In the morning, everyone meets back up in the center of town. The mining boss, Dave, is already there in his truck, along with a few local hunters that are all packing some serious heat, and they're surprised to see Schmitty here actually reporting for duty. The sheriff tries to give Dave a chance to get out of there, but he insists on going to avenge his dead workers, so they decide to split up into two groups and meet back at the campground. The last Aussie Avenger to assemble is Donna here, and she reluctantly hops in the truck with her ex-husband as they drive off to start the hunt. The two groups split up once they hit a fork in the road, with Maddie's team heading deeper into the forest. It's a long drive, and the old man Schmitty here uses the opportunity to get a quick power nap. Eventually, they come to a spot where they decide to get out and check on foot. Grabbing their weapons out of the trunk, the team sticks together as they walk into the trees, following the trail down to the nearby campground. It's the same place where the Roo first attacked, and sure enough, they quickly find the blood-soaked tent just off the path. Rushing to check it out, Maddie pulls the flap back only to discover that the bodies are completely missing. The others follow a trail leading them away from the crime scene, where they can hear the sounds of something watching them from the tree line, but it leaves before they can track it down. It's already late at night when somebody from Dave's group fires a shot at something out there in the darkness. Pulling over to check it out, they realize that it wasn't the Roo, but it's something just as strange. It's a mutilated cow, with its guts completely ripped out, but the hunter swears that it was just moving around. Stunned, they're all wondering what could have possibly done this when Dave starts to feel like something is watching them. Telling them to stay quiet, he makes everyone turn off their lights, and they silently spread out to search the area with no idea that they're walking straight into a trap. The search leads them all closer and closer to the mine, where Maddie notices that the water is heavily polluted by all of the chemical runoff. To Schmitty, it smells just like what they used in the war, and he thinks that this must be the source of whatever turned the kangaroo evil. Dave's group searches through the woods, listening closely for any sign of the creature's presence. They start hearing noises coming from all around them, until suddenly the Roo lunges out from the bushes, grabbing onto one of their rifles and using its powerful legs to slash open his chest. The others run to help him, but by the time that they get there, Rippy here is already feasting on the man's corpse, making 6 down with 7 more to go. His friends open fire, and one of them even hits it with a shot straight to the chest, but he tanks the blast and sends another guy flying dozens of feet through the air, shattering his spine as he crashes into a tree. The last girl tries running for her life, but the Roo here just keeps hopping up and absolutely Mario stomps her straight into the dirt, tearing her apart before Dave can even react. That makes 8 down with 5 more to go. His only choice is to hop back in the whip and get the hell out of there while he still can, but just when he thinks he's lost it, the Roo comes jumping in from the side and sends his truck spiraling off the road, causing him to crash straight into a tree. Okay, talk about a disaster. These guys were supposed to be the ones hunting the kangaroo, but Rippy here just turned the tables, like turning shrimp on the Barbie. Yeah, go Australian jokes. Anyways, now the two biggest factors working to their advantage here were their superior numbers and long-range firepower, but they gave all that up when they decided to split up and walk into the freaking forest. They had no idea that Rippy was already waiting to ambush them, and he took out the guy who was alone and in the back of the group before the others even knew what happened. That's why you always want to stay in at least groups of 2. That way, you'll always have a meat shield close by. When they caught the roo eating their dead partner, that was the perfect chance to kill it before it struck again. But they forgot the most important detail. This isn't just any roo, it's an undead zombie roo, so you can't take it down with shots to the body. Like we saw just a few minutes ago from the zombie cow, a headshot is the only reliable way to take them down for good. So next time, instead of panicking, they need to use the opportunity to carefully line up a shot and make sure they don't miss. You know, it seems like there's some kind of connection between Rippy's zombie virus and the contaminated water here at the river. For now, we're only dealing with one zombie kangaroo, but we just saw that the virus can also infect other species. They need to quarantine off the river and set up a disaster response team to filter out the pollutants as soon as possible, stopping it from spreading to anyone else, including the other humans in town. They should also take samples of the water to find out what contaminants are causing the virus, and use this knowledge to develop an antidote or vaccine. That's going to take a while, but we can still improvise some options right here on the spot. The sign by the river mentions dangerous algae, but the household chemical bleach neutralizes most species. If they can spray, inject, or trick Rippy into consuming bleach, this could weaken his supernatural durability, making him more vulnerable to regular attacks and not just headshots. There's still one more thing they're forgetting about: those dead bodies back at the morgue. I'd keep a close eye on them to make sure that they don't suddenly come back to life, and if they do, then they should run some tests to find out more about what's causing it. Hearing the commotion, Maddie's group gets back in their truck and starts speeding towards the action. They end up finding Dave crashed on the side of the road, still alive but horrifically injured from the accident. Maddie tries to save his life, but there's nothing that she can do, and the man slowly bleeds out in her arms, making 9 down with 4 more to go. It looks like yet another avoidable death that Maddie here blames herself for, but the others try to reassure her that it's not her fault. Sitting in the truck alone, she starts having flashbacks to the day that her father died, but his death wasn't as heroic as she remembers. That's when Schmitty here decides that now would be the perfect time to tell her the truth, that her father was actually a raging alcoholic who died in a drunken accident. The dude was absolutely wasted by the river, hit his head on a rock, and drowned. But the town decided to go with the story that he died trying to save her because it was easier to remember him as a hero. After finding out that her entire life has been built on a castle of lies, she has about 1.5 seconds to process the information before the zombie kangaroo just fucking slams its head straight into the passenger window. They're trapped in there like the kids from Jurassic Park, with the evil Roo trying to force its way inside. The sheriff reaches for her pistol, but Schmitty tells her to stay quiet, reaching for the keys to start the truck instead. All of a sudden, the creature smashes right through the back window, but Schmitty's able to hold it off with his rifle until the sheriff hits it with a few shots. With the monster stunned, she puts the car in gear and starts speeding away, but after looking in the mirror and realizing that it's still alive, she decides that she has to finish the fight. Pulling the handbrake, Maddie here whips a quick 180 and floors it with the kangaroo lined up in her headlights, but it jumps out of the way just before impact, causing them to fly straight off the road and into the trees. Crashing to a stop, they realize that the truck is totaled, and there's no way to tell if the Roo is somewhere nearby. While Schmitty goes to check the area, Maddie confronts his ex-wife for lying about her father, but she quickly forgives her since they have much bigger problems to worry about. They still aren't sure how a zombie Roo is even possible, but they have to warn everyone in town before it strikes again. Their only choice is to make the trip on foot, but the good news is that it seems like they lost the Roo for now. Okay, you know, these idiots are acting like they don't want the sheriff to be any good at her job. I'm sorry, but half the town just got killed by a zombie kangaroo, and they're all just giving her a pat on the back for trying her best? Well, they won't call you out on it, but I will. And guess what, Maddie? It looks like you f***ed up. The worst part is, Schmitty here tried to warn you from, like, the very beginning. I mean, I get that the town drunk isn't the most reliable source sometimes, and what happened to the miners wasn't all your fault. At that point, the story was still too crazy to believe, but when you see the evidence with your own two eyes, it might be time to start taking things just a little bit more seriously. But instead, you decided to use Ruben here as an easy scapegoat, just so you could wrap up the case before the end of your shift and put the whole town in danger because of your lazy approach. Great job there, Sheriff, but it only gets worse. So now we're finally on the same page that there's a damn zombie kangaroo roaming around town, and you don't even tell the hunters about the zombie part? Sure, maybe they would have thought you were crazy, but it would have been nice to know once they shot it in the stomach and the thing just keeps on coming. It never hurts to be mentally prepared, and one headshot would have ended this whole disaster, and yet here we are. Now, to put icing on the whole cake, you didn't even warn anyone in town that this thing was coming. Hopefully it doesn't get there before you do, otherwise you're going to be walking into a giant bloodbath, which is all your fault. But either way, Sheriff Maddie, you seriously f***ed up. After a long hike, they eventually make it back to Schmitty's place where they can finally catch their breath. Donna wants to use his van to get back into town, but he's been having trouble with the battery lately and had to put it up on a charger. They'll have to start up the generator before they can use the radio to warn their friends in town. So Maddie volunteers to handle it while the others wait inside. As she's sneaking across the property, the exes get a chance to talk for the first time in a while. Looking at a photo, the man admits that he still thinks about their old life every day and just wants a chance to make things right. Their relationship fell apart when he couldn't let go of his memories from the war and started drinking as a way to cope with the trauma. For Donna, losing her brother and her husband all in a short time was too much to take, and it's why they ended up going their separate ways. But now that they've battled a zombie kangaroo together, she's willing to give their relationship another shot. Staying low to the ground, Maddie shuts off her flashlight when she hears something in the darkness, waiting until it passes by before continuing over to the generator. When she finally gets there, she hears a dog barking from somewhere in the distance, and that's when Ralphie here comes running up to give her a kiss, proving that he wasn't eaten by the Roo after all. She's able to get the generator started no problem, and when the two old-timers try using the radio to warn the tavern, everyone's too busy partying to notice her call. Schmitty finally gets his reunion with his faithful pup, but the Roo is still out there watching from the shadows, and they know that it's only a matter of time before it strikes again. While Maddie goes to get the van battery, Donna gets a call through to the police in time to warn them that there is a killer kangaroo on the loose. Schmitty comes out to start loading up the van, but the sheriff can still hear the creature coming, telling them to get inside fast. All of a sudden, the monster lunges out from the shadows and starts coming after Maddie, but she jumps into the van just in time, stunning it with a bullet to the shoulder as they speed away. The group pulls up to the bar looking like they've just been through a battle, and Maddie tells all the people to listen up. She explains that a giant evil kangaroo just killed 9 of their friends, and right now it's already headed their way. While the sheriff fills them in on the situation, Schmitty steps outside and sees the Roo lumbering down the street, running back in to warn them that the beast has come for their souls. Their only choice is to lock the doors and start barricading themselves inside, knowing that this is about to be a fight for their lives. Okay, it looks like it's time for the final showdown. Now, Rippy here might be intimidating, but if they play to their strengths, then there's no reason why they can't survive. Donna here was able to get a call through to the local authorities, which means that it should only be a matter of time before backup gets there. You know, for some reason, these idiots left the rifle in the van, but it looks like they still have time to run and grab it before the kangaroo closes in. Otherwise, they'll just have to work with what they got. The first thing that they want to do now is start using tables, chairs, and furniture to barricade the doors and windows. You still want to be able to look outside so you can watch what he's up to, but we need to block things up enough so that it's more difficult for Rippy to get in. Then we can get to the good part and start handing out weapons to everyone in the group. Maddie still has her Glock, and that's going to be their best defense, but she needs to be careful not to waste any ammo. They should give the 2 strongest fighters in the group the battle axes that are hanging on the wall. If anybody who works in the mines is there, then they're probably the best ones for the job, since they're already conditioned to swing a heavy piece of metal around. If they take the pull cues and use duct tape or zip ties to attach sharp knives or broken glass, then they can set everyone up with a pretty powerful spear. Even the balls themselves could be thrown or fired with a slingshot, which could stun him for a critical hit. Since we're at the bar, they'll also have access to alcohol and flammable cleaning products, which opens up a whole new world of opportunities. Using sticks and rags, they could make torches that would be extremely effective anti-Rippy weapons. And of course, they could also make some good old Molotov cocktails for a long-range option. Fire could even be used defensively here by setting up fire traps in certain spots that could hold him off if you need to escape. With their superior numbers, it should be easy enough to either take Rippy out here or hold him off until help arrives, but if anything happens, I'd still be ready to run out the back door with the keys to the van and use them all as meat shields while I got the out of town. Everyone starts gathering up the furniture and stacking it against the doors, using tables, stools, and even the jukebox to make it impossible for the Roo to get inside. Chaining the last one shut, all they can do now is wait to see what happens next. Maddie peers out through the window, but that's when a police car comes speeding down the block. This is supposed to be their backup, but it turns out to be just one officer, and he's completely clueless about the true danger of the situation. Slamming on the windows, the others try to warn him as he steps out of the truck, but when he turns around, he realizes that he's face to face with the killer kangaroo. The monster digs into his back with its claws and slicing open his stomach as it sinks its teeth into his neck. With his guts spilling onto the floor, it moves onto its next kill before he even hits the ground. And that makes 10 down with a whole town more to go. The survivors inside can hardly believe the sheer horror that they've just witnessed, but Schmitty reminds her that they still need to protect the others. They aren't sure what they can possibly do next, but they need to figure out some way to get out of there before the Roo kicks down the doors. Just then, the creature starts slamming against the barricade, and Schmitty leads them all down to a safe room in the basement, leaving only Maddie, Donna, and himself to stand and fight. It's about to break through, but Maddie here still takes a moment to reflect on how her father was actually a total fraud. The whole point of her becoming the sheriff was to follow in his footsteps, but he never was that great of a guy to begin with. And now she's locked in a death battle when she could be doing anything else with her career. Donna tries to comfort her, but it looks like this therapy session needs to be rescheduled. Loading up the Glock, she tells the old lady to take cover behind the bar because the bullets are about to start flying. Running over to the barricade, she and Schmitty do the best that they can to keep it shut, but the Roo charges up and sends them flying across the room. Moving quickly, the two of them join Donna behind the bar, and it seems like the Roo hasn't found them just yet. Staying as quiet as they can, they listen as it sniffs around right above them, searching for any trace of their scent. Just when it looks like it's about to find them, Schmitty takes a bat and throws it to the other side of the room, almost luring it away until he hears his dog barking from downstairs. With no other choice, Maddie steps out from behind the bar and starts blasting, unloading into the zombie Roo as it whips around to face her. The bullets don't seem to have any effect, so she carefully aims a shot at its head, but it ends up grazing him and causing his eyeball to pop right out of its socket. Jumping up, Donna uses the bell as a distraction, and Schmitty throws over a giant battle axe that's hanging on the wall. The Roo jumps towards her, but Maddie catches it in midair with a chop straight to the dome, hitting it again before turning the axe around and spiking it directly in the brain, finally killing it off once and for all. That makes one zombie kangaroo down with no more to go, and the townsfolk emerge from the basement, grateful to their brave sheriff for saving their lives. It looks like they're finally safe, and Maddie made her father proud after all. But at the funeral home, the mortician gets attacked when the two dead bodies suddenly come back to life, proving that the real Aussie apocalypse is about to begin. Rippy! Another day, another zombie animal movie, but this one was, a little bit special for me. I liked the Australian vibe, and, I like kangaroos, so, dope. Anyways, if you would have done anything differently, let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe, and check out the How to Beat playlist for more videos just like this one. I'm the guy. I'll see you in the next video, and have a damn good day.